Good morning, you from FloorDaily.net, and I'm Kemp Harr. This morning, my guest is Raj Shah, the CEO of MSI Surfaces. Raj, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Kemp, and good morning to you. And I hope in 2022 we'll get to actually spend some time together in person and not have to do these things virtually.
I think we will, because you're planning to go to Surfaces, right?
We are planning to go to Surfaces. We do have a booth and a team, and I'll be there personally as well, so I hope we get to see most of the industry for the first time in 2 years.
I know it. I'm looking forward to that. So I'll see you there, and that's just going to be a little over a month away.
Yes, so excited to get out to Vegas.
Yeah, so let me just give a listener a little bit of background. Most people might know MSI Surfaces. It's a family-owned business and has over $2 billion in sales and over 2,000 employees. You got started mostly in the ceramic tile business, but you've branched out now and you're into quartz surfaces and into LVT now as well, right?
We actually got started in the natural stone business.
That's right.
And grew up in that, in the natural stone, both tiles and countertop slabs. Then we extended out into ceramic tile, quartz, and now LVT.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting story. You sourced for the government the Vietnam War Memorial that's there in the mall area. That was one of your first big projects, right?
Yeah, it still remains probably our proudest project. And it was actually my parents. They're very proud of being immigrants into the U.S. And I think my dad will tell you the story about our company here is not his dream nor MSI's dream, but America's dream. Just amazing what the U.S. can do for people who want to work hard and are motivated.
Yeah, so you continue to grow. In a minute, I want to talk about some of your recent onshoring moves. But first, let's talk about how's business.
Business is good. No surprise to probably anyone out there. Demand has been very strong throughout the year. But that's been offset by supply chain obstacles and challenges, both importing and even here domestically, from raw material inflation to trucking issues to labor issues. I'm sure your audience is very sensitive to the Great Resignation and getting labor on board and the inflation that we've all been dealing with. So there have been challenges, but the good news is demand has remained very strong for the industry.
Yeah, I think my listeners know most everything you're talking about. You mentioned something there. I'd like to give another 30 seconds to that, the Great Resignation, and that's where the worker base is deciding this isn't where I'm going to stay and I'm going to go look for a job somewhere else, right?
I think that's right. You know, we're noticing, especially with the younger demographic, that moving around seems, they think of it as a merit, which, you know, all of us have to challenge ourselves to find ways to make it attractive to retain and, you know, people within our companies. So that has remained a challenge. And, you know, with the internet, technology, et cetera, I think worker and employee flexibility has significantly increased, that they can move around, they can work from home, and the options to them have become greater and greater. So the challenge remains for all of us as employers to find ways to keep them motivated and in place. That does remain a challenge.
It's got to be a fun place to work, and they need to feel like they're compensated fairly, right?
It's a great place to work, a place where they're compensated fairly. A big piece that we're learning is mission is extremely important to them. That they want to feel that a company has a mission and that they're a part of that mission.
All right. Okay, that's the why. I like that.
Exactly.
So let's go ahead and talk. Well, first on this supply chain thing, I think most people know MSI Surfaces got started as primarily an importer and distributor. You have massive quantities of containers coming in. That's affected your business this year, hasn't it?
Yeah, you know, as I tell our team here, that any challenge that affects everyone simultaneously is actually an opportunity, and if it's only affecting us, then it's a real problem.
Right.
So although it has affected the industry, I think as far as we go, you know, we've never believed in this real-time inventory concept, so we've always inventoried very heavily. And then number two, we've been using our volume to continuously pursue innovative ideas to help our retailer customers have the stock that they need to sell in this demand environment. Mm-hmm. For instance, you know, we work directly with the steamship lines. We don't work with freight forwarders. We have large warehouses at almost all the port complexes across the U.S. So it's not just L.A. or not just New Jersey, but rather Savannah, Houston, Oakland, Charleston, Norfolk. I mean, we're using all the ports in the U.S. system. and trying to increase overall flexibility for us and for our retailer customers.
So give us a rundown on how many showrooms you have and how many break points you have as far as distribution centers.
Yeah, the showrooms are about 40, and we're about to go through a large expansion, adding more next year. So we're very excited about that. And as far as distribution centers, all of our showrooms are actually distribution centers, so they hold stock fairly heavily, and containers come directly to them. So they all work as distribution centers as well, too.
Okay, so you got 40 across the country. You seem like a genius now in that 2 years ago you made your first move to onshore by acquiring a quartz slab facility in Latta, South Carolina, mostly countertops there, right?
That's correct. It's 100% countertops for our quartz slabs that are made there. Yes.
So those are man-made countertops. And then in October, you announced that you were buying Rock Plank, a LVT producer in Cartersville, Georgia, and they were one of the first factories, foreign-owned, that got started in this wave of onshoring, right?
You're absolutely right. I mean, they were one of the first and still remain one of the only ones that are actually operating at what we'll call full capacity.
Yeah.
The team there did a great job over the last 2 years to keep, let's call it, maximum production under the circumstances of the pandemic. Technicians not being able to travel, customer support for the machinery and all that was all done, believe it or not, over FaceTime and YouTube videos and things like that.
Mm-hmm. All right, so you've renamed that now, and now that factory is called Premium LVT Manufacturing, and as I said, it's in Cartersville, Georgia.
That's correct.
You've gone through the transition from the founders of the company?
We're going through the transition. Yeah, obviously, it's only been just over 2 months since we purchased it, and we're going through the transition. We're working hand in hand with the prior owners. They have a ton of expertise. I think we're going to be working together for a while to come.
I got you. Okay, so they made a product called Rock Plank. I'm thinking that you're integrating this and coming up with your own brands and kind of probably shifting that product strategy, aren't you?
That's correct. We do have our own brand, Everlife, and the factory will start producing Everlife product here fairly soon. We're just working through we wanted to honor all the commitments that were made by the prior management team to the customers out there.
Okay.
And hopefully we can work with them in the future as MSI customers.
Okay. And this is mostly SPC, if not all, right?
It's 100% SPC, that's correct.
You say it's running at near full capacity.
It is. Part of the discussions we had with the prior owners was expanding the facility, so we're working on doubling the production capacity of the facility here in short order. But again, with the pandemic, everything is tougher than it needs to be, but we're working our hardest to see what we can do.
All right. What's your outlook for next year?
We remain very bullish. We do think the demand for home improvement products is going to remain strong next year, especially, unfortunately for the wrong reason. If this Omicron thing becomes a bigger thing, then it's for the wrong reason, but home improvement will again come into the limelight, and all the macro factors causing home ownership to increase continue to stay in place. So we're very bullish. We do believe the supply challenges are not coming to an end anytime soon.
Right.
So I think it's going to be end of 2022, even early 2023, before we start talking about normalcy on the supply side again.
All right, Raj, well, I appreciate you giving us an update. I've been talking to Raj Shah, the CEO with MSI Surfaces, and you've been listening to Kemp Harr and FloorDaily.net.